We begin this episode with Rhaenyra and Syrax meeting with Adam and Seasmoke on the beach. She yells, "You're standing before the Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. You're on a dragon of House Targaryen. What do you want?" Adam responds, "The dragon chose me. I'm of low birth, and if the gods have blessed me with a gift, who am I to refuse it?" She walks closer, and Adam kneels and tells her he wishes to learn the ways of dragon riding, and he will serve his queen. Rhaenyra asks him about his lineage. He tells her his mother was of low birth and his father is an inconsequential figure. Rhaenyra tells him he's done the impossible and asks Adam if he can ride Seasmoke back to Dragonstone. Corlys is going to gag when he finds out the son he doesn't acknowledge is now a dragon rider. Next, we see Alicent talking to the resident maester as he cleans a cut on her arm. He tells her it's now clean and will heal. Alicent responds, "Nothing is clean here." We see a rat in the foreground walking on a nearby table. I guess because all the local rat catchers are dead, they can't get their rodent problem under control. Also, did Alicent cut herself? She seems very depressed in this scene. She leaves her room and tells her personal bodyguard she wishes to go out. We cut to Larys and Lord Jasper Wilde watching rioters and traitors be rounded up in the courtyard. He tells Larys he's heard Seasmoke has a new rider. Larys asks him where he got the news. Lord Jasper tells him the list of people who passed the information along and narrowed it down to one of Corlys's workers on the docks. Larys instructs Lord Jasper to keep this whisper to himself. Suddenly, Larys notices Aemon looking up at him. They stare at each other for a few seconds and Larys slowly walks away from the balcony. Larys needs to move carefully because Aemon clearly doesn't trust him. I don't think Larys has ever encountered someone who's watching her every move. Now we see Rhaenyra and Adam flying back to Dragonstone. Corlys and her small council begin to discuss the mysterious new rider and Rhaenyra's instructions for him having living quarters prepared and for him to be treated respectfully as a guest. Jacaerys looks visibly upset. I wonder what's on his mind. Next, we see Mysaria and Rhaenyra privately meeting in the Dragonstone Library. Mysaria asks if she trusts this man. Rhaenyra expresses to her that Seasmoke claimed him and she has no choice. She also pondered on whether or not he has Targaryen blood somewhere in his line. Mysaria mentions testing out lowborn dragon seeds. Rhaenyra doesn't fully agree with this idea. However, Mysaria mentions her own highborn brothers have usurped her throne and has waged war against her. Thus, the rules have changed and she should adjust. Mysaria's statement clearly convinces Rhaenyra she should move forward with the process of finding lowborn dragon seeds to ride dragons. She tells her, "People of the court spoke poorly of my sons, so let's raise an army of bastards." We cut to seeing Corlys enter Adam's room. Adam turns around, bows his head, and says, "My lord." Adam tells him he wishes to leave his position, and Corlys grants it. It's a shame that Corlys is now acknowledging him because he has no choice. But even in this private moment, he's still interacting with him as an employee. I understand back in those times that having an out-of-wedlock baby was looked down upon, and this would ruin Corlys' reputation, but why couldn't he just be a father to him in this private moment? I find myself not liking the character Corlys as the story continues. Now, we see Daemon meeting with the Lord Oscar Tully. Oscar tells Daemon that his actions created one big mess and he may have a hard time getting the Rivermen to fight for him. Daemon responds, "I don't need their love, I need their swords." Daemon and the young lord meets the other river lords in the courtyard of Harrenhal. They question Lord Oscar on why they should follow Daemon. The young lord begins to express how his grandsire swore loyalty to Viserys and his choice of heir. The female lord tells Oscar that justice must still be served for the atrocities that were committed. Lord Blackwood, whose house committed these heinous acts on the Brackens, says that justice has been served because the traitors against the crown have sworn their loyalty. Lord Oscar calls out Lord Blackwood on his BS, tells him he committed these barbaric acts because he wanted to. The young lord proclaims he's the Lord Paramount and he demands that justice be served for the slaughter Lord Blackwood committed. He tells the guards to seize him. Lord Blackwood looks at Daemon and says, "I was following orders from the king." Lord Oscar walks towards Daemon and tells him if he wants their banners to march for him, he must atone for his actions. Daemon walks over and decapitates the head of Lord Blackwood. It's crazy how he was so loyal to Daemon, but Daemon had no loyalty to him. I get that he needs the Riverlands to fight with him, and he had no choice. However, Lord Blackwood and his men clearly went too far with their actions, so I guess this is the consequence. Next, we see Daemon enter the room, and he sees a vision of Viserys in his deteriorating state. Daemon sits next to him. Viserys, with his crown in his hand, asks Daemon, "Do you want it still?" He continues speaking and tells Daemon the crown crushes everyone who wears it. Daemon remains silent. I've been over this Harrenhal storyline for a while now. It looks like it's finally coming to a close. I think Daemon's time at Harrenhal has caused him to do some deep soul searching, and I believe he's no longer obsessed with obtaining the Iron Throne. I think he will leave ready to fully support Rhaenyra and be ready for battle. We cut to see the Grand Maester trying to help Aegon walk again. Aegon yells, "I can't." The Grand Maester tells him he must try. Larys walks in and begins to assist the Maester with Aegon. They lead Aegon to his bed and Larys tells him that he will regain his strength. Larys tells the Maester they should try again in a few hours. The Maester explains to Larys that Aegon should be resting. Larys once again instructs him to try again in a few hours and leaves the room. Corlys meets with Alan and tells him to prepare several ships for Rhaenyra. He then informs Alan that his brother Adam has claimed a dragon and is serving Rhaenyra now. Corlys tells him that Velaryons do not come from a line of dragon riders, but they are sea people. He admits to Alan that he wasn't aware of their mother's lineage. The look on Corlys' face suggests that Alan tries to claim a dragon, but he tells Corlys, "I'm of salt and sea. I yearn for nothing else." Corlys looks proud of his response. Now we see Rhaena leaving the Vale. She looks back at Lady Arryn and her shady behind looks thrilled that Rhaena is finally leaving. After the gates close, Rhaena makes a beeline to clearly go and look for this wild dragon. I hope she's able to claim it so she can participate in this war and Daemon can finally be proud of her. It seems like he's closer to Baela than Rhaena, in my opinion. I do feel like this is because she hasn't been able to hatch or claim a dragon yet. We see Alicent on a horse in the woods. She looks depressed. She gets off her horse and tells her personal bodyguard, "I will retire now." She walks towards her tent and he asks when she'll return to the city. She says goodnight and goes into her tent. We cut to Rhaenyra and Jacaerys in the Dragonstone Library. He expresses his disagreement with Rhaenyra's plan to invite lowborn dragon seeds to try and claim a dragon. He mentions the possibility of one of them betraying her. Rhaenyra explains she has no choice but to recruit to fight for what's rightfully hers. Jacaerys asks her, "Did you think I would be born with dark hair?" Rhaenyra stares at him with a look of confusion on her face. He walks towards her and says, "When you took Sir Harwin strong into your bed, did you think I might favor him? Did it ever cross your mind?" Rhaenyra simply responds, "Jacaerys." He quickly interrupts her and says, "I'm not a fool, mother. Yet I may argue my legitimacy to succeed you, because I have a dragon. Now so you'll strip that from me too?" Rhaenyra assures him that he has nothing to worry about, and this is the path she must take to fight for her inheritance. Next, we see Mysaria hand Alan a note. Suddenly, we see a montage of this note being passed around multiple hands until it reaches Mysaria's connection in the city. It looks like Rhaenyra's recruitment process has officially begun. We see our dragon seed Off-White chatting with his friends at a bar. One tells him that a boat is leaving out of the back of King's Landing to take people to Dragonstone, so they can see if they can claim a dragon. He tells Off-White that he should go. Off is reluctant to try this, but his friends cheer him on. We cut to our other dragon seed, Hugh Hammer, conversing with his wife about auditioning for Rhaenyra. The wife makes it clear that she's against him doing this. He tells her if he's able to claim a dragon, she'll be made a lady, and then she can have anything she wants. She tells him, "I do not wish to be a lady, nor I wish to be a widow." He begins to explain his past to his wife and reveals that his mother was a disowned Targaryen princess. He also revealed she worked in a brothel to support herself and that men would pay more to sleep with a silver-haired sex worker. He looks at his wife and says, "I have to do something." We now see Alicent walking through the woods and into a river. She appears to be in deep thought and begins to float on the water. She looks up into the sky and sees a bird. She fixates on it and appears to be in a deep meditation state. Allison is clearly feeling devalued and may be regretting a lot of her past decisions. I think her getting away from the Red Keep will recenter her in some way. Next, we see all the lowborn possible dragon seeds entering Dragonstone. We see Rhaenyra walk down the stairs to greet the lowborn people. One of the dragon keepers scolds Rhaenyra in High Valyrian. He explains to her that he disagrees with what she's doing and tells her dragons are sacred, the last magical beings of Old Valyria. They're not to be used for the games of men. He tells Rhaenyra they'll take no part in the process, and he and the other dragon keepers walk away. Respecting their decision, Rhaenyra gives a speech to build up morale and warns them they must be prepared to die. She educates them about Vermithor by informing them that he's the second largest dragon after Vhagar, and he's also known as the Bronze Fury. She looks at the participants and says, "We'll go to him now. May the gods bless you." Rhaenyra leads the possible dragon seeds to the mounting station. She calls out to Vermithor in High Valyrian. He appears from the darkness and he's absolutely huge. Rhaenyra tells him to calm down and serve in High Valyrian. She touches his nose and begins to breathe deeply, and then smiles. She turns around and asks the dragon seeds, "Who will be first?" We see a fragile gentleman step forward. Rhaenyra says, "I have no more to tell you. The dragon must speak." She leaves and begins watching from a balcony. Vermithor begins to burn most of the lowborn participants as they run and scream, so I assume most of them had very diluted Targaryen blood or none at all. Many of the dragon seeds fall down into the pit, including Hugh Hammer and Off-White. We see Vermithor burn and eat many of these lowborn people. Off runs further into the cave and away from Vermithor. Hugh runs and hides behind a huge stone with a woman. We see Vermithor continue his killing spree. Hugh sees that Vermithor is about to burn a woman. He reveals himself and calls out to him to distract the dragon and save the woman. Hugh yells, "Come back! I'm ready!" Vermithor slowly walks towards Hugh Hammer and begins to bond with him. Rhaenyra looks pleased. We catch up with Off-White. He's clearly lost and trips over a clutch of eggs. He looks terrified once he realizes he stumbled across the dragon Silverwing. He quickly gets up and she nudges him several times. He closes his eyes due to his nervousness and then opens them. Once he realizes the dragon is bowing her head, he begins to laugh. It looks like our other dragon seed has successfully claimed Silverwing. Next, we see Aemon and his small council conversing in a meeting. Suddenly, he's distracted by a lot of commotion coming from the outside. Aemon looks out the window and sees Off-White riding Silverwing above King's Landing. He quickly gets on a horse, rides to Vhagar's location, and begins to fly towards Dragonstone. He suddenly looks horrified and says, "No, Vhagar," and "Flee, Vhagar," in High Valyrian. He quickly turns around. We then see Rhaenyra emerge with a defiant look on her face, watching Aemon fly away, while her dragon Syrax and Vermithor and Silverwing roar with their new riders on their backs behind her. The episode fades to black. This was a good episode. It felt more satisfying than the last two episodes. It was also cool to see the dragon seeds try to claim Vermithor. I'm happy the Harrenhal storyline is finally coming to an end. Daemon has his army, so hopefully we can move on and get back to business. Right before the finale, it seems like things are heating up again, and I'm super excited to see the finale next week. I rate this episode a B+. If you like this review, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.